Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Special guest today. Welcome, Mr. Lanterne Rouge.
I'm back. 3-year absence. We've both kicked off. And yeah, the channels both are going well. So I'm keen to chop it up and talk about Alviso. We're back with the real OG content, right?
My favorite, man. We're bringing it back. We're doing Alviso. And we're going to do this a bit different. We're going to dive into footage in about 2 seconds here. So hold your horses. But here's how it's going to be. We're going to talk about stuff because I want to catch up with my buddy Lanterne. We're going to talk about YouTube, talk about the state of cycling, and we're going to talk obviously about the race unfolding this whole time. So what do you think? Should we dive into it?
Let's go.
All right, guys, welcome back to Alviso. And let's just do a really quick recap on what happened last week. If you had missed that video, my first Alviso back into the season, I blew it. That's what early season races are for. So I'm kind of back to test those legs out, to get the intensity going. And we're picking up action here with 15 Ks left. We're about halfway, maybe a little bit more than halfway through Alviso. And what do you think, Lanterne Rouge? Do you guys have local races like this in your area?
In Andorra, there's not too many crits because there's not much flat. There's a pretty, I've moved to Andorra, by the way. There's in the north of Spain, in Catalonia, there's a pretty active racing scene, but super hilly. It's kind of it's the opposite of the American scene, I'd say. There's crits, of course, but they've got, local, actual, road races, because it's
Hill
just easier to
climbs
close
and
roads.
Mountains and stuff like that.
Yeah, all that jazz. In Australia, crit scene, big.
Big, right? Yeah, I get a lot of people submitting footage from down under, and a lot of good crit races over there. What I love about these weekly crits like Alviso is you get to mess up, and it's a weekly practice crit. You really get to sharpen those skills and test things out that you normally wouldn't. I think a lot of people assume they're sprinters because they're in a crit, but they're not, or they think that they're a time trialist, but they're not. They're actually a sprinter, and you can test these things out. You can go out and try new strategies, and then for me in this case, you get that intensity in your legs. So here is me, for example, not letting Blaine get away, because Blaine's one of the strong men here at Alviso. And if you look who's on my wheel, that's the winner from last week. That's Timmy. So this, we just came off the heels of new guy Matt on the front, taking a monster pull. He was on the front most of this race. And he was bringing every single breakaway back, and I thought maybe this one would finally break him. And it's funny the way this works is these are the guys that you'll see in a lot of breakaways, because this is one of the benefits of joining a lot of practice crits is you see those moments, you see the riders. There's a rhythm to the pack that you can't learn if you're just out solo training. You can't learn if you're on Zwift. That's the benefit of these practice races, especially early in the season. So I don't commit as hard as I did last time. You notice my powers here.
Yeah, you didn't
around
hit
350.
400.
Yeah, last week, you guys remember, I was way too excited, and it'd be my first group ride, let alone my first practice crit, let alone group ride in months. So I was way too excited. I was up at 450 watts on my pulls. This is a little bit more controlled, and we have a pretty serious gap. This is looking good, huh?
Yeah, and I guess, how do you, I don't know these guys, but do you know that you've got these guys in a 3-up sprint? So you don't mind being in this group and working with them?
All things being equal, yes, but I lost to Timmy last week. So I kind of learned my lesson. That was, I think, mistake number 3 in the last video, was underestimating your competition. I underestimated Timmy, how strong Timmy's going right now, and Timmy's got sprint legs on him. So that's one of the reasons I wasn't up at 450 watts on my pulls. I was keeping it a bit more controlled and making sure I still had pop, because that's the first thing that you lose after an off-season break, and then you get back into base training, is you lose that snap, especially if you're doing repeated really hard efforts. It's really difficult to make a 10-15 second sprint anywhere close to my normal 1300, maybe 1500 watts if I'm going really good. So I definitely kept it more controlled in this race, and you can see me checking back too. I'm a bit more mindful of what's going on, but as long as these other guys are rotating, I'm rotating too.
Yeah, what's the wind situation on this course? Because obviously it's 4 directions.
Yeah, I usually have a little wind arrows. I took them off in this race because this was a strangely windless day. Alviso is right next to the bay. It's very exposed to the wind, but there's almost no wind on this day. If anything, it is a left to right wind right here, but really it was almost immeasurable. So not much wind. This is the we're coming into the start finish straightaway here, and this is generally a tailwind. A little bit from the right to left here, but generally tailwind. Anyway, we're caught. Cortex guys caught us, and that's when Blaine goes, I'm going to go hard again, because Blaine, now off the front, is on Thirsty
Great time
Bear.
to attack, by the way.
It is, yeah. But he was already in the group. He was already in the breakaway, rather. He had teammates in the group who really should have done the counterattacking for him.
Yeah, true.
And that's why it didn't really have the same effect. But once I saw Cortex also jump, I committed a bit more energy there. You saw I was up over 1,000 watts, because I can't let those two teams get away. Because look who's on my wheel. Like, if I didn't make that bridge effort, 2 of Blaine's teammates are on my wheel. They're not going to make that effort. So now we're chilling. And as long as there's nobody off the front, like, I am not going to... I'm getting a little push there from Jerome. I am not going to work. And this is Matt, by the way. New Matt, who just went off the front. This is good news to me, believe it or not. When the competition goes off the front like this, as long as it doesn't contain Thirsty Bear, who's this rider right here, then I'm content to let it go. But once Thirsty Bear goes, I have to bridge across for the same reason I said before. When the major teams are in the breakaway, you have to keep an eyeball on that gap. You have to think about people's motivations, and you have to be prepared to jump across like I did here. So a bit more energy, but man, I talk a lot.
Where's your
Rouge,
team? Aren't you the protected sprinter?
I am, but it's just me. This is a practice race. I have no teammates in this race. It's just me. But let's talk about you for a minute, because, man, it has been 3 years since you were last on the channel, and you've been absolutely killing the YouTube game. That is Lanterne Rouge. You guys probably already know, but go check out his channel. Tell me about the YouTube game. What do you got going on these days? Because I heard a little something about Jumbo Visma.
Oh, yeah. So after we spoke, I then got negotiated with ASO. They own the Tour de France and various other big races like Paris-Roubaix to get sort of legit highlights rights, and that really, signing that deal really kicked the channel off, going from sort of throwback videos to like big, highlight videos of the Tour de France, and that was really good. And then last year I worked with Jumbo Visma on producing sort of custom versions of those videos, analysis videos for them. And that's continuing this year and next year as well. So that's really cool. Like that, obviously the videos which the public has seemed to enjoy are now sort of helping. I mean, it's not as entertaining for them, not as many jokes, but it's basically the same content, just is useful for the teams. And then I've moved overseas as well, because covering the races from Australia full time with the podcast as well. We do recaps of every single World Tour and Women's World Tour race, just not possible from Australia. So I moved to Andorra, and that's also been pretty cool. So a lot of changes. But you've kicked off too.
Yeah, we're expand. We're building the platform out, and we got some stuff going on. Of course, we cover amateur racing mostly. Trying to build the sport kind of from the other end of the spectrum, right? As I'm looking at this sport from the ground level, right? Amateurs getting into it. That's been my big motivation. Is this stuff didn't exist when I first got into the sport. But I gotta say, when it comes to the commentary on pro bike races, I always follow your content. I don't know how you get it up so quick, because you're the one editing the videos. Is that right?
Yeah. So I think the key is I don't have any scripting, so I just literally do it off the cuff. I chop up the footage, have the moments that I want to talk about. Obviously, when I'm watching the race, I'm kind of mentally like, if a really important rider has crashed in a technical corner, I'm going to bookmark that to include that as part of the video. But I chop it up, and then the footage, and then I just do a voiceover, like one take, one take voiceover.
One take Charlie, man. Those are my favorite. The best, I always found that the best takes are the first takes, the most organic ones. So oftentimes Brian and I, frenemy Brian, we do these race commentaries, is like we will do a 3x or a 5x watch through of the footage, look at the notes that they sent us just to make sure that they didn't miss anything that we noticed, and then it is one take. Like, we have gotten so good at doing these one takes, because for the same reason, there's a time constraint. Look, we need to get this out the door and move on to the next race. And also, the first take is just simply the best one. Those first reactions are the best, and that's the way I've done it. It takes a long time to get comfortable doing it in one take, but that is honestly my favorite way to do it. But you've gotten the intentions of some of the bigger teams, right?
Yeah, and like sort of with a bigger audience now, it's difficult to balance. Well, it's always just been entertainment. I was sort of making it because I thought it was entertainment, but then, it's actually serious analysis then, and then teams are using the content to sort of like adjust their race strategies, and definitely tactics are changing a lot. I think teams are being a bit more aggressive, and maybe thinking about it a little bit more. Not all the teams, but and I sort of have better relationships with some of the riders as well who us also from moving overseas. So yeah, it's going really, really well.
Here's a breakaway. Here's a breakaway I missed, by
Oh
the
yeah,
way.
what's going on here?
I just I just let them roll. I don't know. If you guys watch that back, a couple of riders rolled off the front and just nobody followed them. Like people weren't holding the wheel, and now I'm like, really? Like I don't want to have to chase this back, but it has everybody in it. So all of a sudden I have to chase this back. But anyway, I'm going to stitch this up, and as I do that, finish what you were saying. I apologize.
Oh no, it's just yeah, it's hopefully amateur cycling keeps growing and your channel's growing as well. It just feels like I don't know. A lot of time people say, "Oh, road cycling is it death of road cycling or whatever," but that's not what I see. Like the views on videos of minor races are growing, and your channel's doing well, and there seems to be a whole host of other cycling or road cycling adjacent YouTubers popping up all the time who get pretty good views if they're making good content. So I don't know. I think road cycling isn't in that dire straits. But yeah,
Yeah, views have been good over here too. Especially the amateur stuff. I mean, there's a lot of interest in this sport. And I'll tell you one thing I really love about this sport. You'll never see the same race twice. It's like a game of chess,
Yeah.
I get sent all this footage, and there's never a concern that it's like, well, I've seen this one before, It's like, no, every single race is different. There's nuance in every race, especially crit racing. It's so dynamic with the strategy. And I could break down a half a lap of Alviso and make a 2-hour video about a half a lap, about every little micro decision that I make, because it is that consequential. And the faster you're going and the higher the level, the even more consequential it becomes. How have you, because you've been in the pro cycling game for a long time, have you seen like this higher level of strategy? Have you seen any changes in the pro cycling scene?
I mean, obviously, like, if you watch the Col de Granon stage in the Tour de France last year, that was a little bit different with Pogacar being attacked over and over and over and over by
that
Roglic
stage.
and Vingegaard. We sort of that's very different to the Sky Days. I think there's some more finesser attacks. Like, for example, Quinn Simmons just won in San Juan with a finesser attack, 700 meters or a kilometer attack, and in what should have been a sprint stage. And guys are identifying points, and he said he identified the point where he could go. And Christophe Laporte won a Tour de France stage like that last year too. Just should have been a sprint stage, attacked at a random moment when there was just a 3-second lull, and went. So I think some guys thinking about it more. Definitely in the classics, Van der Poel, for example, he used to race really aggressively and cost himself. And last year, his tactics were flawless. Like no stupid closing of moves, no showing off, really efficient. Like, for example, when he was with Pogacar in Flanders, he didn't attack him. He just sat on him. He's like, I'm going to beat you in the sprint. So why would I flex or show off? He just rode really smart.
We have somebody.
Holy, what's going on here?
Somebody crossing the road. So it was green, and then the light turned red for the pedestrian, and then he just like stopped there. So he was wearing a high vis vest, and he put his hands up. But the front riders were like, "Dude, what are you doing?" Like we were all running a red light. We were all in the wrong. Just let me get ahead of the YouTube comments there. But while we were talking, there's a group up the road of 2 riders, which I did the calculation, and I was like, 2 riders, there's like 3 laps to go. Nah, that one's coming back. Oh, and it was Blaine, who had already done quite a bit of work. I was in an early breakaway with Blaine. Blaine's the Thirsty Bear rider, and it was a Cortex rider. So those are the two guys I said to look out for, but I figured, there's a lot of meat left on the bone here. There's, like I said, like 8 kilometers left. And
Why are you moving up here?
I'm moving up because I want to monitor the gap, because there's a threatening move of 2 off the front, and I want to see who's chasing, what's going on. And unfortunately, when I looked up the road, I saw new guy Matt on the front, which is usually a great thing because he is the guy who just sits on the front and does 400 watts and brings everything back. But he'd been doing that this whole race. So he's kind of tired at this point. Like I said earlier, I was hoping he was going to be tired when I was off the front. But now he's finally starting to lose some steam. And I was running my mouth a little bit there at the SJBC, that's San Jose Bicycle Club Boys in Blue, because I was like, what I told him is I said, hey, you guys missed it too. There's like 3-4 SJBC riders. Here's another one in front. He has last year's kit. But SJBC, it's like, hey, you guys missed it too. And there's 4 of you. There's only 1 of me. Tell you what, if you move up there and chase, I will chase too. That was the deal I made with him, and he shook his head and said no. So it's like, well, that's the reason I'm moving up, is like, hey, we're quickly approaching the end of this race, and their gap is not getting any closer. It's like 20 seconds. My buddy Nick here is going to take a pull. He is on SJBC, so I guess he heard my call. He's wearing their shorts at least. I don't know if he's actually racing for them this year, but he's going to take a pull because his thought is the same as mine. It is like, look, we are all losing right now, and I know people look at me and they look at the videos I've released on YouTube about winning sprints at Alviso, so they are probably reluctant to bring it back for me. But the truth is, like, I will do work. I cannot do it all by myself unless that's the end of my race. And I'm doing the math right here. I'm looking behind me, Cortex. He has a rider up in the break. The riders behind him are just more Cortex and more Thirsty Bear. And right there I told Nick, hey, chill, dude, I'll bring it back. So here's the math I was doing. I was like, we're all going to lose. I'm going to try to bring this breakaway back, and this will be my effort of the day. Because I messed up, right? The breakaway got away without me in it. Totally my mistake, and now I'm paying for it. So it is now my mission to bring the breakaway back, and in order to do so, it's going to take 500 plus watts here for about as long as I can possibly go. So that's what's going on right now. Long story short, I screwed up, and now I'm paying for it.
I mean, I think the San Jose guys, like the Cortex guy just lost your wheel and he was supposed to be marking you. You actually kind of drifted off the front, but you didn't realize that your wheel had been lost for like 3-4 seconds, and there wasn't really a corner either.
There's not enough wind. This would have been still okay with me if there was a big crosswind right here, right? Because I could gutter the field. Usually on the start-finish straightaway, there's a big tailwind. You can get up to 34, 35 miles an hour, especially if you're doing like 500 watts like I was doing. And then you make this right-hand corner, and then you have a crosswind, so then you can do some real damage. But on a day like today, there's no way that I could make a really hard effort and punish the people behind me at the same time. So it is now at this point just head down. I'm just going to bring the breakaway back, and hey, you win some, you lose some, man. But this is my effort of the day. At January legs, I don't have a last lap, absolutely fully pinned effort to bring the breakaway back and then sprint out of it. So at this point, I'm just getting the intensity in and bringing these boys back. Plus, I really like to ruin the breakaway for for Blaine here because he's super strong and he's always a thorn in my side. So it's nice to chase him back for once. But that's my race right there, man. I think this is when I pull off, if I remember correctly, because that was a lot of intensity for January. And Thirsty Bear played it really well. They went 1-2 in this race because, hey, when you have a guy in the breakaway and you have 4 more riders back in the field resting, that's teamwork. That's success in bike racing.
And how have the tactics changed at Alviso since we spoke last? Is it is it people doing that, making sure they're always represented up front so that you then have to cost yourself your race, bring it back?
Good question. Alviso has stepped up. Like, I absolutely love what's happened with Alviso. Alviso used to be probably like a Cat 4 race, I would say,
right,
in terms of the level. That's like C grade for you guys, I would say. And yeah, I could go out and get intensity and get sprints in. But now it's like, I got to count my wins, man. First, I've made myself a marked rider because I've had some success at Alviso, and people aren't going to give me a freebie to 200 meters to go. But also, it's just, I think because the sport is growing, like we talked about. Amateur cycling is growing. The Bay Area is this hotbed for really talented athletes, and a lot of people are now coming out to Alviso. This is January, and we had like 40 riders in this field or something. A lot of talented folks coming out. The level now went from, Cat 4 C grade. I would put it on terms with, I would say Cat 2. I wouldn't say quite P1, 2, but like Category 2. So somewhere between like A grade and B grade. It's fast. There are teams that actually like execute teamwork like we just saw and really put the screws to me. So it's frustrating on one hand because it's like, man, that's my Alviso. I want to win. I'm a very competitive person, right? But on the other hand, it's good because when you're not winning, you're learning, right? You're either winning or you're learning is what I learned early on in this sport. So don't let Blaine and Cortex get away is what I learned today, and also work on that intensity. And I'll be back out next week to crush them again. Great having you on. I'd love to have you back on, Lantern, and we can do this again because I feel like I spent most of the time talking about Alviso.
No worries. We can do it again. Still sort of off-season, pre-season. So, yeah, no better time to do it.
So go check out. I'll drop a link down to the Lanterne Rouge's YouTube channel. Although most of you have already seen it, know about it. Don't forget to go over there and subscribe because, guys, pro bike racing is upon us, and you have my absolute favorite pro bike racing commentary, analysis, breakdowns. It is by far the best. Check it out if you haven't already. And with that said, we'll catch you guys in the next one.